Now at this point we want to start the bike up after we gave it a good once over and made a mental note or even jotted down all the stuff we saw when we were looking the bike over. Now what we want to do is start the bike. Now again, it's a good time to have done your research before you came to look at the bike, and mainly the things you want to figure out beforehand are, is the bike fuel injected or is the bike carbureted? Because a fuel injected bike is going to run a little differently than a carbureted bike will run. So this is a carbureted motorcycle. It is older, so I already knew that ahead of time. But for a carbureted bike, it should start easily. You shouldn't have to give the bike any throttle to get it started. You should just set the choke. Again, this is why it's so important to have a nice cold bike so you can see how easy it is to get it started. And yeah, just make sure we set the choke on here and it should fire up fairly easily. So that's not always a bad sign. Let's try again. Alright, so this bike here is a little difficult to get started. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're just going to let the bike start, warm up. This bike right now to me sounds a little rough. So I would be a little concerned at this point about how this is going to run. You hear how the engine's stumbling, falling on its face a little bit, kind of searching for that engine RPM. It doesn't sound smooth. Alright, right now this idle should be up a little higher because it is on the fast idle circuit. So this actually, the RPM should be up higher. And you hear it searching, so this would be cause for concern at this point that potentially something in the carburetor needs cleaned or adjusted properly.
Alright, while you have the bike warming up, it's a good time to check and make sure that all the lights are functioning. Remember, you are going to take this on a test ride, so it's good to know that that stuff is going to work. You also want to make sure that the lights work on the dash, your gauge cluster there as well, that there's no bulbs burned out there, and that all the lights are functioning like they should be. So just give the lights a good once over and make sure that they're working. Now for the brakes, you want to make sure that the rear brake switch works, as well as the front brake switch working. Because it has two separate brake light circuits, you want to check both of those and make sure that they are both working.
Alright, so I let the bike warm up. It's at least operating temperature, and you just heard it shut off. So you want to make sure that you get the bike warm enough. You don't want to just try and take it off of that fast idle right away. You want to get the bike warm and see if it idles. This one doesn't idle really well. So that tells me that there's something going on with the carburation. And don't let people tell you that it's not an issue. All you need to do is throw a bit of cleaner through the gas tank. If it doesn't idle, it has a carburation issue. Either the carburetors need adjusted or the carburetors need removed and cleaned. A bike should idle and a bike should accept throttle without problems. It shouldn't stumble at idle, and it certainly shouldn't shut off when it's idling. So that one's really important, and really take heed to that, because a lot of times I've had bikes come in and people tell me, oh, it's just a simple fix, just a minor adjustment. At least that's what the previous owner told me. So I want to make it very clear that you know, if the bike does not idle, there is a carburetor issue if the bike is a carbureted bike. Now, if it's a fuel injected bike, you could have other issues on your hand, but I'm speaking specifically on carburation because this bike is carbureted. Now, what I'm going to do next, it does shut off at idle, but I already knew that. It is something I'm going to fix. The next thing you want to check is how does the bike accept throttle just sitting here. So you rev it up, you very lightly rev it up. You hear how it stumbles. It's also an indicator that there's something going on with the carburation on this bike. The other thing to listen for is when I do rev it up, it takes a while to get back down to idle. So somebody's probably messed with the idle screw at this point and causing the idle to hang up. So there's definitely a carburation problem with this bike, and that will need addressed, and that can be expensive depending on who you go to. Even if you decide to do it yourself, it's going to take you time, it's going to cost you materials. So when negotiating, that is something to take in mind, that it will need carburetor work. So don't sell yourself short, and don't feed the lines of, oh, it's nothing, you just put an additive in the tank and that'll fix your problems. All right, so that's what we do before we take it for the ride. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw on the Senna and we'll record the ride and things to look for. Alrighty, I'll see you in a minute.
Now the reason you take these bikes for test rides is this very reason here. This bike does not have second gear whatsoever. It has 5 forward gears and 2 neutrals, as you'll hear in this video here. Alrighty guys, so I just recorded over this. I was having a little bit of audio issues in regards to the helmet. It's something I'm working on, but when you take the bike for a ride, first you want to clarify with the owner that you can actually take the bike for a decent ride. I recommend about 10 miles. A 10-mile test ride is going to give you a good idea of how this bike performs. It's going to get the bike up to operating temperature. You know, you'll be able to see if there are any type of overheating issues, things along those lines. Good ride, 10 miles is gonna give you a good indication of how that bike's gonna perform. And what you want to do when you're on this ride is you want to feel for any weird hesitations on throttle. You want to feel for any weird vibrations under acceleration or braking. Deceleration, when you're decelerating, you want to listen for any weird noises coming from the engine. Also, when you're revving the engine up, what you want to do is find a good stretch of road and really wind the motorcycle out. You want to get the motorcycle high up in the RPMs to see if it pulls smoothly and, you know, stumbles at all. Anything like that is only going to be seen if you actually rev the motorcycle out. So I say ride it like you are going to typically ride the bike and just feel for anything that feels out of the ordinary. The other thing you want to look for is when you're going down the road is that the handlebars are pointed straight and not turned in one direction or the other. If they are, it could be a sign that the bike had a pretty substantial front end collision. Also on a straight road, just for a second, just loosen your grip on the handlebars, or take your hands off the handlebars just for a moment, just to see if the bike tracks straight or gets into any type of shimmy or something that doesn't feel safe. But yeah, just use your best judgment, and if there's something you question, you know, and you do decide to buy the bike, take it to a mechanic and have them check it out further. But on this test ride, you will be able to tell if there's something not right on the motorcycle. You hear the engine accelerating faster than the bike is, could be an indication of the clutch slipping. So one thing I always tell people to do is put it in the highest gear you could put it in at a lower speed and give it full throttle, and it should pick up speed at the same rate essentially as the bike's revving up. That's when you're really going to notice if the clutch slips, because it's the highest load on the bike and it's the highest load on the clutch at that time. So yeah, also on that same stretch of road that you found, put it in the highest gear you can and give it full throttle, and it should take full throttle, and you shouldn't have that clutch slipping.
Alright guys, so we're back from the test ride, and just like I expected, it does have that second gear issue. I already knew about it. This is one that I will be working on here in the upcoming days to get this sorted out. This is also a bike that is owned by the Cycle Hunters. If you didn't get a chance to check that video out, I have a link to that video up here. These guys go to great lengths to make sure that you actually don't even have to do any of these steps when checking their bikes out, because I personally and Joel personally check these bikes over in the exact same manner that I just went over for you to check these bikes out. So those guys there are somebody to look up if you don't even want to do all these steps to look at your next used motorcycle. But as I said, this bike will be coming up. I will be replacing second gear. I will also be fixing the carburation issue on this. So that's something to look forward to in the upcoming videos. And that's how you check a used bike over, guys. If you're out there looking, 'tis the season. It's getting nice out, so make sure you're just very careful. Double check everything. Do your research. Make sure that it's in good shape before you purchase it, so you don't have any hidden issues down the road. And overall, if you don't like the bike and they're unwilling to work on a price for you, they made a bunch of these. As a matter of fact, I have another one of these in the garage right now. So don't think that this is the last time you're going to see a bike that looks like this. There's plenty out there. Stick to your guns and you'll get yourself a nice used motorcycle. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. As always, if you like the video, drop a nice thumbs up there. Any comments, feel free to leave them below. I'm Matt. This is MotoWorks. Thanks to all you guys out there who subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.